Welcome back to my cave of cool books. My name is Jeff. Apologies in advance for my flushed face. I've just recently walked back through some 90+ degree weather here in Osaka. It's hotter than blazes. And being a native Pacific Northwesterner, even after 20 years in Japan, I'm still not used to their roasty, toasty summers. But today I want to talk a little bit about a book I mentioned in a previous video. My shelf tour of my private eye detective novel collection, and that is Mermaid on the Rocks by Brett Halliday, a Mike Shayne mystery. Now, by this point, Brett Halliday is a house name. Now, originally, Brett Halliday was the pseudonym for a writer named Davis Dresser. He wrote the first, I believe, 27 Michael Shayne novels. Michael Shayne is a red-haired Miami private detective, big, typically tough, fairly gruff, likes the ladies, likes the booze, likes the cigs. You know, a typical hard-charging private detective. But he, judging from this book, which is the first Michael Shayne novel I've read, he's got a pretty sharp mind, too, and is able to put 2 and 2 and make it make 5 if he needs to. And by this stage, Mr. Dresser had stopped writing Shayne novels, Mike Shayne novels, and several other writers took over. This one, out of a series of 70+, I couldn't quite get a exact perfect number. Various sources, some quoted 77, some 72, more than 70 anyway in the series. From the first one, Dividend on Death by Davis Dresser, under the pen name Brett Halliday. That was published in 1939. And this one, the 55th novel, Mermaid on the Rocks, was published in 1967. Coincidentally, the year of my birth, so 57 years ago. And this novel, and several other of the later Mike Shayne novels apparently was written by Robert Terrall, Terrall, apparently. And he does a damn fine job. This is a really good, twisty, fun crime novel. Again, Mike Shayne operates out of Miami, but here he's down in the Keys, in a place called Key Gaspar. Now, this book starts off really kind of strikingly with Mike Shayne, who's apparently come down to do a little bit of scuba diving. He's got an aqualung, as they called him back then, a tank, and he's diving by himself, which is really not what you're supposed to be doing. And something's obviously wrong right away. He's he's not himself. He's kind of thinking he wants to be one with the fishes, and he wants to go down 100 feet and check out something way down in the kind of trench way below where he's at. Let's go of the safety line when you're diving by yourself, which any diver worth their salt knows that's not a good idea if it's a particular dangerous spot. At any rate, he's having some trouble not knowing which way is up, and all of a sudden a beautiful blonde plunges down next to him and tries to beckon him. He thinks, is this some kind of mermaid? I know there's no such thing as mermaids. What's going on here? Trying to gesticulate, motion for him to come up to the surface. And he's like, no, lady. I got my own thing. I want to go down with the fishes. So then the woman, who isn't wearing a face mask or tank, has to go up and get some air. And then later she's back and she's trying to get his attention again. He's not listening. So what does she do? Pop! Off goes the bikini top. Now, she's described as having a pretty impressive figure. And that does get, horny bachelor Mike Shayne's attention. But still, he's still kind of confused and still, trying to bring the girl with him down to the depths. She gets frustrated again and goes away. And all of a sudden, she's back again. And this time, whoop, off go the bottoms. And she's stark naked. And now she's got Shayne's attention. And she manages somehow to get him up to the surface. And of course, we find out as she applies mouth to mouth, crouching naked over him on this boat, and he's surrounded by one of his longtime friends, journalist Tim Rourke, and another woman that Rourke's date. We come to find out that something is not quite right in here. There's something rotten in Denmark. Obviously, someone tainted this scuba tank that Mike is using with nitrous oxide. 90% nitrous oxide, in fact, when the tank is tested later. And it turns out this is Kitty's tank that Mike has borrowed. Now they kind of, Rourke and Kitty have lured Mike there under false pretenses. Mike's been working hard. He needs a little break. And Rourke's conned him into coming down to this Gasper Key to, relax with a couple of good-looking girls and do some scuba diving and barbecue some steaks. Anyway, it seems that this tank apparently was set up to cause what looked like a drowning accident for Kitty, because it was in Kitty's house in her storage area. And Kitty is the blonde girl, Kitty Sims, who came down and very effectively lured Mike back to the surface by being the mermaid, the naked mermaid that pulled him back up and saved his life. Or did she? Anyway, she basically has now pulled Mike by seeming to save his life. She's pulled Mike into bodyguard duty for her. She feels her life's in danger, and there's a reason. Kitty's former boss, she was a secretary to a man named Cal Tuttle, who has since passed away. Cal Tuttle was a former bootlegger who owned this Gasper Key, did some time in prison, etc., and named Kitty as one of 4 inheritors of this key. Now, it turns out Kitty is being pressured by the other 3 beneficiaries of Cal Tuttle's will. Those beneficiaries are his brother Brad, who is a kind of a very tough, mean, kind of former leg breaker for the mob, who's skilled with the knife and isn't afraid of killing and hurting people. Then there's Cal's daughter, Barbara, who had previously been estranged from him, but has since made it up apparently, and she's a sexy 40-something who wants to marry, has designs on marrying the 3rd member of this strange arrangement, Judge Frank Shanahan, who's quite the ladies' man himself, but she's hoping to lasso him to kind of make a kind of power couple arrangement for their mutual financial benefit. Anyway, all 3 of these people want Kitty to agree to sign on a deal. Now, apparently, at first, Kitty thinks it's only worth about $400,000 and she wants her share, but it turns out it's $1 million deal that this real estate company is making for this island, Gasper Key. And it sounds like that there may even be some possibilities that they're trying to eliminate Kitty to get rid of her, not only if she won't sign, but because they'll be able to get a larger share of this $1 million offer from this real estate company. So Mike Shayne is up to his neck in all sorts of shenanigans as usual. There's a couple other parties involved. Kitty's not quite divorced ex, or her, I guess, estranged husband, Hank, who's a multiple-time loser, but willing to go to some violent lengths to get his share of some money. And there's also Barbara's housekeeper on the key, Ada Lou, who apparently was the former mistress of the departed Cal, and is one tough cookie. And Mike Shayne, again, up to his armpits in trouble in this. After that striking opening, there's a couple chapters later when Mike's back in Kitty's apartment, and she's making some moves on him when Brad comes into the picture in an attempt, looks like an attempt to murder her, and there's a pretty impressive and intense knife fight, brawl in the dark between Mike Shayne and Brad. Later, Mike Shayne ends up, kind of in a really pretty dire predicament, bonked over the head, woozy, trussed up in a treehouse, 20 feet off the ground in the blazing sun, with time of the essence if he needs to move and try to prevent further deaths. This is quite an interesting and twisty ride, and the real writer, Robert Terrell, I wish I knew how to pronounce his name, puts out some pretty mean prose. I liked it quite a bit, and it kept me reading along. There's some good action mixed in with the usual private eye, kind of casing the different joints and sizing up the various suspects. And when Mike Shayne, who now is kind of a well-known figure in Miami in the local police chief, is somewhat of a friend rather than a frenemy, which often happens in private eye detective fiction, that the cops don't like the private detective. Here, Shayne is well known for his high retainer fees and I guess his honesty. So the cops, the police detective he works with is a buddy of sorts. And of course, Tim Rourke, the journalist, seems to be a recurring character. But yeah, other than those people, nobody is someone that Mike can trust. They all have some agenda. They're all trying to work some angle, some of them much more lethally than others. And it's up to Mike to try to save as many people as he can. And also involved in this is a treasure. Now, the treasure is not real treasure. It's a very complicated story I won't go into now. But basically, it was predecessor owner of this key before Cal Tuttle took possession was putting together kind of a fraudulent, buying up a bunch of old coins and various gold artifacts, putting them in to do a mock-up treasure so that he could get some publicity and set up a kind of real estate, sell off pieces of the land there. Then that man was shot and killed before he was able to pull this off. And maybe this treasure is still hiding around somewhere, or is it some other kind of fraud or scam going on? It's all quite complicated, but Mike pulls it together, and everything's laid out, and all the T's are crossed and the I's dotted by the end. I really enjoyed this one. I recommend it. I'm gonna, go ahead and pick up and read some more Shaynes when I get them. More Shayne novels. I like to try some of the earlier ones by this Davis Dresser, the original author, the original Brett Halliday. But I wouldn't, turn your nose up at these later ones either. I think they continued up. This is 1967. I think they continued up into the early 70s anyway. Again, nice Robert McGinnis cover. And it even gives him a credit on the back. Illustration by McGinnis, if you can see there. Anyway, this is my first of probably 2 contributions to PI in July, the reading event, the new reading event started up by Jim at Mystery and Mayhem. And it was a lot of fun. I recommend it. I'll try to read a more recent, I suppose, or post-70s private eye novel before the end of the month. I'm planning to get off and do a little Rocket Summer possible, sci-fi, classic sci-fi, vintage sci-fi read if I can. Wrapping up my semester at my 2 universities I work at, and it's pretty busy, but I'll try to get some more reading done if at all possible. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Go out there, try to read some, whatever makes you happy, but try to read some classic private detective fiction if you have a mind to, and I hope you have a good time doing it. We'll see you in the next video, and I'll talk to you later.